Is this the best Nike Phantom ever? Well, it might be the best recent Phantom, but I think there is one major change that's been made that's going to mean that for a lot of you, this new update just isn't for you. As you may have guessed, in the box we have the Nike Phantom 6 Elite LE limited edition for the launch colorway in the AG Pro, and this is the high variation. As to why it's still in the box, it's because the hell is going on with the box. If you know your Nike football boots, you'll know that elite level boots come in a silver box. They have done for quite some time now. The orange box is for the takedown model, this more standard generic Nike box. So kind of strange that we don't have that here. And with these being a limited edition, they are 10 euros more expensive than what we are expecting the regular release colorways to be. Can't confirm that yet, but that is the expectation. So again, you might want or expect a slightly nicer presentation, especially than the orange box. It's not a big deal, it's just weird. These did come from ProDirect, and if you want to pick up a pair from ProDirect or anywhere else, I will leave some links down in the top pinned comment and in the description. It helps support the channel, you get boots from legit retailers, everybody wins. But let's get the boots out of the box. So first things first, we have a string bag. Turn it around the right way, which is just this silver string bag. It's quite nice. It is fairly generic though. There's no mention of Phantom, Phantom 6, anything like that on it. It is just silver, which does match in with a section of the boots. But either way, Nike do nice string bags, and I'm not complaining too much. Onto the boots themselves, I will say this colorway looks an awful lot better in hand than it does in the pictures, and I have kind of come around to like it. However, I will say that the thing that probably looks the best is the outsole, which is absolutely delightful, so that's where we're going to start. We have a brand new AG outsole with all conical studs, which I think is a massive benefit. Now, none of this is too long. Overall, this is going to be a great option for the majority of AG pitches. The rear, a little on the long side if you do have a particularly poor AG pitch, but I don't really see it being an issue. I also think that similarly to previous generations, this is going to be a good FG AG option if you have a nicer FG pitch. Those slightly longer studs will help there, and although you do have some pretty short ones in the front here, as long as your pitch isn't too muddy, too wet, anything like that, you might just get away with this for multiple surfaces, which I think is always a massive benefit if you're looking to save a few euros. Pounds, dollars, wherever you're watching from. The main thing though is I think the actual outsole itself, the plate has had a huge upgrade. It's now nice and stable through the midfoot and the heel, which it definitely wasn't before. You could see, this is the FG version, but they all pretty much did it. There's just a lot of bend and flex through that midfoot area. This is absolutely reinforced. It's a huge upgrade, and it's even remained reasonably responsive through the forefoot without being anything crazy. I think this is a massive upgrade in pretty much every single way when compared to the previous generations, and I am really pleased with it. The upper is still grip knit, and as with a lot of things on the boot, when compared to the previous generations, it's a little bit of a blend of the two. What we've got is we've still got those ribs from the Lunar 2 GX2, but they're just a little bit more refined. You've got more of them. The upper overall is a little bit softer because of the way they're built, and that's because the ribs themselves are simply softer. They've been woven into the fabric almost in like a little wave pattern. If you imagine the beach is here and there's waves lapping up to the shore this way, that's what that feels like, whereas on these it's a very hard grip or a hard rib that's been pushed into the boot after it's been made. The ghost lacing system is back, and it's not called ghost lacing this time around. but it's definitely ghost lacing, and I don't love it. I've never really loved the ghost lacing, particularly here. It's just harder to tighten your boots. It's harder to basically get your boots or get the boots loose enough to get your feet in. If you like the look, great. We're going to talk about how it affects the fit and the touch, but if you like the look, great. But for me, it just seems a little bit unnecessary. It is also a little bit tighter than what you got on the GX1, better designed really, but also more difficult to use. And of course, you do have those 2 layers of material. You've got the Flyknit running here with the grip knit on top, so you are adding a little bit more bulk overall. I don't hate it, it's not a disaster, and we'll see how the low is when that arrives. I will be reviewing the low version of this in FG, so do get subscribed to the channel to pick that up. Remember to hit the like button on this video. Oh, that was not smooth at all. And if you want to become a Boot Wizard member, I'll leave some links down the top in comment and description where you can do so, which will give you videos like this and that GX low review as soon as they're available before anybody else. That was awful. Let's just move along. You've also got a brand new dynamic fit collar, which is really, really premium, much nicer than what you got on the GX1, in my opinion, and similar in material sense to the Lunar 2, but a little bit lower, and it doesn't have that full asymmetrical design. It's a really nice feel, fits really nicely around your ankle, and if a collar is what you like and you don't want anything too tall, this is lovely. You've also got this transition where you go from grip knit back into this material in the rear, which is just more stable for a bit more lockdown and stability. And that transition area has this black strip that runs all the way around it. It feels an awful lot like nylon. And I think that hopefully it's going to provide some additional durability through the toe box area just here. That would be absolutely fantastic. And then that runs up to my least favorite thing I think about the boot, which is quite simply that this little bit of black taping doesn't match up with this little bit of black knit on either side, and it kind of upsets me. Visually, I need these two things to meet. This hurts my brain. It's so inconsequential, but I need them to meet. It's frying my brain. Please, please fix it. In hand, these feel a little bit less grippy than what you got on the previous generation GX and Lunar 2, and they feel more grippy in hand than what you got on the GX1. However, if you wore a pair of GX1s, you know that the fact that these were completely flat with no ribbing means that when you did touch the ball, you got a really quite intense grip feeling on these. So I'm imagining these to actually be the least grippy of the three, but not necessarily in a bad way. There is definitely more grip than you get on the Mercurial as well. So somewhere between the Mercurial and the GX2 is where I'm expecting these to land. There is, of course, a full playtest review coming, so get subscribed for that, and we'll get into some real deep dive details on the touch and feel. But for now, we do have a very soft upper, and in terms of thickness, very similar to what we got on the previous generation. This is definitely going to feel a little more padded because of the increased number of ribs, and of course in this instance with that double layer across here, again a little bit further or a little bit more distant from the ball, but I expect it to be very nice. You've also got this orange strike zone just here, which is a little bit more raised, a little bit harder section of the grip knit. It's not going to do a huge amount, it's more of like a little target, maybe a little bit of additional feedback, but it's there. We do have to talk about this swoosh and this swoosh right here as well, because this one in particular is a problem. This medial side swoosh, if you put your hand into the boot, you can physically feel it. And just from doing a few short kind of passes and things like that, you will notice it. If you catch that swoosh, you will notice it on feet, you will notice it when you catch the ball. It is a solid piece of material. Now, it also seems to force the boot in to a bit of a weird shape just here. I wonder if you can see that down the boot as the shape adjusts. Now I want to get into that when we talk about the fit, so hang around for us to talk about that. But in pure touch terms, this one you can absolutely feel, and I think that is a mistake. It's not good. On this side, this one here, you're not really going to notice at all. It doesn't really need to be there. You can't feel it from the inside. You're not going to notice it either way. And this is just a big, blingy, shiny swoosh because, hey, why not? For the heel, we've got a very similar design to what we had on the GX2, I think. It is a little bit softer through this area just here. You can kind of see the difference. But it also seems to have had a little bit of a shape change, which for me is 50-50. The 50% that's good is that it feels like it tapers in a little bit more up this area. So I feel quite nicely wrapped and tucked in around here. I don't know how well I can show you that, but it just seems to come up to a bit of a nicer pinch than the GX2 or the Luna 2 did. Positive there. However, it then splays out down into the bottom of the boot, and in this area feels a little bit too wide. So at this point, I do have a little bit of kind of left to right wiggle room down the bottom of the heel here. And that is wiggle room against quite a hard heel counter. So it's not the most comfortable. However, at this point, I think I just have to say the heel is fine. I haven't got any major issues. The padding is very similar to what Nike have been doing with the previous generations and even the Mercurial. So jury's still out on this one and more testing required. Now to the important stuff: fit, sizing, comfort. The first thing Nike have done that we need to talk about is they have adjusted the length compared to the previous generation. So if we put these side by side, you should be able to see that the previous generation Luna is a tiny bit longer, but that tiny bit of extra length means that these run a whole heap closer to true to size, and I can now wear these in exactly the same size, the US 8, UK 7, 26 centimeter, but my toes, as I like them, are now right towards the end of the boot. Now for me, this wouldn't have worked had they just whacked a few millimeters off the end of this boot because of the shape. So there's also a shape change through the toe box. Let's put them side by side again. And you've got just a little bit more of a rounded toe box. It's not as pointy and as pinched, and you've also got a little bit more volume. So let's put these side by side again, and you've got maybe about an extra millimeter or so of volume through the very end of the toe box. Now those two things combined with that shorter length, I think makes for a boot that fits a lot closer and a lot nicer, and I think it is a big improvement just to make those two changes alone. That brings us on to width, and in the forefoot we've got a little bit more volume, we've got a little bit more width, we've got a much nicer, more rounded shape. So if you've got that wider forefoot, this is absolutely better than the previous generation. However, this is where we get to my point about this isn't going to be a boot that now suits a lot of you, because I know a lot of people went for the GX2, the Luna 2, because it was the Nike boot that you could get that was great for people that had a wide foot, and I'm just not sure that this is the case anymore, at least with the high version. I have a wide foot. Now it's not very wide, but it is wide, and I'm definitely getting a bit of compression, a bit of squeezing around this midfoot area. I do think it will alleviate as I wear them a bit more, and if you just have a wide foot or a slightly wide foot, I don't see you having a problem. But if you're in a very wide foot category or really pushing the boundaries, I just don't think that this is something I can recommend for you. As I say, at least not in this particular version with the lace cover and etc. You might want to try the low, but I'll let you know as soon as I get the low in if that is the case. The last thing I do want to talk about when it comes to fit is that swoosh and this little kind of way that it beds in and creates this almost angle in the shape of the boot, which I'm really hoping you can see on the camera. And what that actually does is positive. It's really given me a shape. So when I put my foot into this boot, it can stretch out and I can push my foot out into the boot because it's a reasonably nice, well, it's a soft material, and my foot can kind of fill out all of this space. And that there just gives me a really nice shaping around the kind of midfoot and arch of my foot, which I really, really like. And I can apply that to a lot of the boot, especially from kind of this point forwards. I think the shaping and the way it wraps around my foot is really, really positive. The closeness of it is absolutely excellent. I can compare it a little bit to what you get with the Under Armour Shadow 3 Elite, if anybody's tried that, just without the elasticity, whereas this kind of expands and then contracts and compresses around your foot and gives you a very personal fit. This doesn't quite have the elasticity, but it really does give me quite a personal fit with very, very little dead space. And this section here is absolutely part of that. I'm overall a big fan of that kind of like front 2/3 section shape. And as I say, jury is still out on the heel a little bit. So should you buy it? There is enough of a change here from the previous generation, and definitely enough of a positive change, particularly with the outsole, to make this a great option. At this point, without having gone out and spent a few hours in them, there's all kinds of elements here that could definitely make these the best of the modern Phantoms, comfortably in my opinion. However, should you buy it right now? Well, boots are just stupid prices. These coming in at, I think, 290 or 280 euros. That's insane. So my advice is, unless you're desperate, you need a pair of boots right now, just wait until they go on sale. And if you are looking for something that's already on sale that's very similar, check out the previous generation, which I just did an 18-month review of. Do that by clicking just here.